Welcome back to the deep dive. When those huge moments happen in life, like a massive win or maybe something tragic or even a big political event, we usually try to explain them, right? We look for the obvious stuff, skill, planning, maybe just a bad decision. But what if there's something else? What if the astrological stage for that event, the house signature at that moment, was already kind of setting the tone, dictating its nature? Today, we're doing a deep dive into some fascinating statistical work on the Pluto phases system. The core idea here is that major life events seem to correlate pretty specifically with how often certain astrological houses show up. These houses, you can think of them as like different life areas or archetypal fields.
Yeah, and our mission today is basically forensic data analysis. It sounds a bit grand, but that's what it is. We've got 5 different data sets. We're talking Australian Open wins, Masters golf wins, records of serious car accidents, assassinations, and even political inaugurations. A real mix. And the question is the pattern of house numbers we see in these events real? Is it non-random? Or is it just, statistical noise, just chance?
Okay.
Because if this Pluto phases system has legs, then we should see a clear split. Houses linked to achievement should pop up way more often in the success stories. And conversely, houses tied to death, loss, chaos, those should dominate the tragic events.
Right. So the clustering should match the definition of the house.
Precisely. If it does, then you've got statistical validation.
Okay, let's unpack that, starting with success.
Yeah.
What's the signature? What does the system predict for, say, a huge career-defining win?
Well, the big one it predicts is House 10.
House 10.
Yeah, House 10. It's seen as the peak, right? Governs achievement, your status, public image, career success. So if the system's right, House 10 should be, frankly, all over the achievement data. Way more than expected.
And did we see that? What about those Australian Open wins? We looked at 30 of them.
We absolutely saw it.
Yeah.
Dominated. Statistically, in a random set of 30 events, you'd expect any given house to show up maybe 2 or 3 times. Let's say 2.5 times on average.
Makes sense. 1 out of 12 houses.
Exactly. But House 10, it appeared 6 times in those 30 victories.
6 times.
6. That's more than double what you'd expect by chance.
Wow.
It's a strong signal. It confirms that when someone achieves that kind of major professional status, that House 10 field is heavily activated.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense for something like a Grand Slam title. That's very clearly about status and achievement. So that prediction holds up.
And it's consistent. We looked at the Masters wins, too. House 10 showed up 4 times there. Still pretty high, still a strong concentration, marking that top-level success.
But hang on. Looking at the Masters data, yeah, House 10 is strong 4 times. But it wasn't actually the most frequent house in that data set. It feels like maybe success, especially in something like elite sports, is more complex than just status, right? There's the drama, the pressure, the dream.
That's a really good point, and this is where it gets layered and quite fascinating. The House 10 signal is definitely there, strong. But you're right, the most frequent house for the Masters was actually House 5. It appeared 5 times.
House 5. What's the definition there?
House 5 is defined by things like entertainment, drama, glamour, even risk-taking. Which, if you think about a major televised golf tournament, it's a perfect fit, conceptually. It's not just a win. It's a huge public spectacle, a drama playing out.
Okay, that tracks, the entertainment angle. But then, houses 8 and 12 also showed up 4 times each. Same as House 10. Now, House 12, I can see that. Fantasy of the dream realized, that fits winning a huge tournament. But House 8, the system usually defines that as death, transformation, maybe shared resources. How does death fit with winning the Masters? Are we just kind of forcing the interpretation here?
That's the critical question, isn't it? And this is where you have to look at the context and the deeper symbolic meanings within the system. House 8 isn't always literal death. In a context like elite performance, it represents mysticism, that intense inner focus, almost a supernatural level of mental discipline.
Okay.
It's about profound transformation, the kind required to operate at that peak level under immense pressure. So it's not death, but the intensity, the deep psychological dive.
Mysticism and inner focus.
Yeah. So the combined signature for the Masters becomes H5, the public drama, H8, that intense inner focus, the transformation, and H12, the dream coming true. It paints a really coherent narrative for an elite athlete at their peak.
Right, it's less about a single word definition and more about the combination, the theme.
Exactly. And we saw other supporting themes in the Australian Open data, too, that weren't dominant, but were overrepresented, like House 3, ingenuity, House 7, unpredictability, which you'd expect in sport.
Sure, if upsets happen.
And House 11, groups and strategic alliances, which makes sense, acknowledging the coaches, the support teams behind the player.
Okay. So the achievement side seems to cluster pretty logically around houses defined by status, public performance, drama, focus.
The pattern holds, yeah.
All right. Now, this is where, for me, it gets really interesting. We flip the coin. If success, constructive success, has this kind of clear signature, does tragedy, does sudden destructive loss have its own distinct pattern? Let's look at the car accidents and the assassinations.
And we absolutely do see a pattern, a very clear one, actually. And yeah, it's quite unsettling. Take the 30 celebrity car accident cases we analyzed. These include some really high-profile tragic events like the deaths of Princess Diana, James Dean.
Right.
The house that completely dominated that data set was House 7.
House 7. Didn't we just say that was unpredictability in the Australian Open data?
We did, but its other core meanings are chaos and significantly insanity, not necessarily mental illness, but a complete break from rational order. House 7 was the most concentrated house in the car accidents, appearing 6 times.
6 times. For the house representing sudden chaos and unpredictability in a data set of sudden chaotic car accidents.
Exactly. It's a chillingly specific link. It suggests the sort of statistical environment during those moments was fundamentally defined by instability.
That strongly backs up the system's definition for H7 then.
Very strongly. And we also saw House 6 show up 4 times. House 6 is about control, routines, health. Its prominence here suggests that loss of control is inherent in these events.
Makes sense. And what about the really direct houses, like death and loss?
They were there too. House 8, which is explicitly linked to death and transformation, and House 12, linked to loss and endings. Both were clearly overrepresented. They each appeared 3 times in the car accident data.
Okay, so House 8, death, shows up in accidents. What about the assassinations? Targeted political violence?
Yeah.
Did that mortality theme appear there too?
It did. House 8 showed up twice in the 20 assassination cases. We looked at figures like Malcolm X, Harvey Milk were in that data set. But interestingly, the houses that really define the assassinations, the most frequent ones, were House 5 and House 9. Both appeared 3 times, dominating that specific data set.
Wait, House 5 again? We just talked about it as drama and entertainment for the masters. Now you're saying it's dominant in assassinations.
Yeah.
How does the system explain that? Is it just violence now? That feels really broad.
It's about context and perhaps intensity. That's how the system explains it. In a success context, like sports, H5 energy manifests as public spectacle, the drama of competition. In a violent tragedy context, that same core energy, that drama, translates into public violence, a destructive spectacle. It's the same archetype, but expressed very differently.
Okay. And House 9, what's the link there?
House 9 is often about higher meaning, philosophy, long journeys, but it also carries the theme of excess.
Excess.
Yes. So in the context of assassinations, think about major figures like Martin Luther King Jr., often involving, say, gunshots. The system interprets that kind of specific destructive violence through this H9 lens, an excess of force, or the extreme boundary-crossing nature of the act.
So the signature for assassinations is this combination of, like, public violent drama and destructive excess.
That seems to be the statistical signal, yes. Drama, danger, extremity.
So if we step back and put these two sides, the achievement wins and the tragic losses side by side, what's the big picture? For me, maybe the strongest argument isn't just what shows up, but what doesn't. The absence of a house where it just wouldn't fit.
Absolutely. That contrast is, I think, the single most powerful validator for the whole system. We really need to slow down here because it's crucial. Look at House 10 again, the house of achievement, status, public success.
Right, the powerhouse in the Australian Open data. 6 occurrences.
6 occurrences. Now, how many times do you think House 10 appeared in the data set of 20 assassinations?
Based on what you're saying, it should be very low. Up to
0.
Zero.
0. Not a single time. A powerful 0% occurrence rate.
Wow.
That shows the system isn't just finding random patterns. It's differentiating. An event fundamentally about gaining status, H10, simply does not happen statistically in time periods defined by the signatures of violence and destruction.
The environment for destruction actively pushes away the signature for status gain.
That's true.
Yeah, that's genuinely compelling. And did the reverse hold true? Did achievement environments push away the signatures of death and loss?
Completely. Take the inauguration data set. These are events purely about establishing authority, status, a positive transition of power. House 8, the primary house associated with death, and that intense, sometimes dark transformation. Completely absent. Zero occurrences in the inauguration data.
So inaugurations actively avoid the time fields linked to mortality.
The data strongly suggests that yes. It shows these distinct, seemingly incompatible statistical fields for different kinds of major events.
And there were other interesting absences too, right? Within specific data sets. Yes, some unique dissonances. For instance, back to the car accidents data set. House 4, which specifically relates to home, the domestic sphere, family,
Okay.
it was non-existent in the car accident data. 0 occurrences.
Which makes practical sense, too.
Exactly. These are almost always transit events happening away from home. The statistics mirror that reality. A statistical gap for the home archetype during events defined by chaotic transit.
And going back to the Masters, the big positive achievement signature, what houses did it actively avoid?
Well, significantly, it completely avoided House 9.
The excesses house, the one that was prominent in assassination.
That's the one. It had 0 occurrences in the Masters wins. This reinforces the idea that H9 in this system seems linked to destructive, excessive, negative outcomes, not constructive, high-level achievement.
Interesting.
And the Masters data also completely avoided House 2. House 2 is about authority, money, personal resources. It was a key player in the political inaugurations, naturally.
But irrelevant for winning a golf tournament.
Apparently so, statistically. It just wasn't part of that achievement signature.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this. Looking across all 5 data sets, sports wins, accidents, assassinations, inaugurations.
The takeaway, I think, is that the statistical validation looks pretty strong. This doesn't appear to be random chance. We're seeing very deliberate, non-random clustering. Success events really do concentrate heavily in the houses defined by achievement, public performance, drama, focus like H10, H5, even H12 and H8 interpreted contextually. And tragedies, they cluster just as strongly, but in different houses, the ones defined by chaos, unpredictability, death, and loss, like H7, H8, and H12 again, but with a different emphasis.
So the data isn't just showing patterns, it's showing appropriate patterns. Opposing patterns even, that match the supposed meanings of these astrological houses.
That's exactly what the analysis suggests.
Which provides a kind of statistical anchor for a system that, let's be honest, many people would quickly dismiss as just esoteric belief. So here's the final thought, the thing to maybe mull over. If the specific astrological house active during an event statistically correlates so strongly with the fundamental nature of that event, whether it's about achievement or chaos or gaining status or death, does this imply on some level that the potential outcome, or at least the kind of outcome, is almost coded into that moment? Baked into the statistical signature of the time itself, regardless of the specific person involved. Something for you to think about. We'll see you next time.